Preparedness Month, and certainly hits home to two certain agencies, the Red Cross and FEMA, because it is Preparedness Month. So here we're taking a week out on Local 6 on midday to ask questions to our specialists, but also answer viewer questions about pending disaster, ice storm, severe weather, even earthquakes. So for the next couple of days, call us on Liveline, and we'll try to answer those questions for you today. Joining me today is Beau Dodson. He's meteorologist with McCracken County Emergency Management. Your first time here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. And we both had a lot of lessons we learned from last year's ice storm. That seems to be the big topic now that we're heading into the fall months. People are getting anxious. And even our first caller is saying, Deanne, I guess, is saying that she wants to know, is there any way to know, are we going to have another ice storm like last year? So I want to talk a little bit about some of the lessons we learned and what we think about what's coming up for the winter.
Well, I mean, that certainly is the million-dollar question, is are we going to have another ice storm? And unfortunately, science just isn't that good right now with the weather models to predict more than 5, 6, 7 days in advance. And that's a good forecast. If you can get 5 to 7 days notice, as we did on the ice storm this year, that's great. Normally around here it's very difficult to forecast winter weather. Even the day of, we're always on that rain, snow, sleet line. And that makes it difficult for you, makes it difficult for emergency management to know what's going to happen. Right now there's signals that we may have a cold winter, but those are mixed signals. We've got a developing El Nino in the Pacific, which is a warming of the Pacific waters. If that becomes moderate or strong, then there's reason to believe we may have a warmer winter than usual. But there are mixed signals, and I'm sort of in the camp of I think we're going to have a colder winter based on what we've had the last 12 months with this persistent pattern that we're in.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that camp too. I think we'll have a little bit colder, and I think we'll actually have a little bit more in the way of snow than the past couple of years. It's been since '04 that we've really seen a big snow, and a lot of times, Beau's here talking about El Nino, a lot of times when we're going into a weak El Nino, which is the case right this minute, we typically see more snow in the winter and also some pretty good cold snaps. So that's something that's kind of giving us an insight as to what might come. And I think our last viewer also asked, what's the chance of us having an ice storm? And it's really, you know what, there's always a chance that we're going to have that next ice storm. And that's why we're talking about preparedness today.
Certainly, we live in a disaster-prone area. We're no stranger to disasters, be it earthquakes, tornadoes, flash floods. We get a little bit of everything in this region. People have asked me, what are the odds of another ice storm? Some say 1 in 100 years. I like to use percentages. It's about a 1 to 2% chance per year of an ice storm of that magnitude. The 2008 ice storm, I know the 2009 overshadowed the 2008 one, but for some counties that was a significant event. That happens about 4 or 5% chances of something like that happening each year. We usually do get ice, sleet, and snow around here. That's a common event.
Very common.
Just not that common to get 1 to 2 inches of ice, such as that. And certainly we all hope. It was an expensive disaster for myself, for my family, and I know for everyone. It was an expensive event, and we hope we don't see anything like that again.
Okay, Tina in Lone Oak, she says, what is the best way to protect yourself and family during an earthquake? Another natural disaster that, kind of like the ice storm, we in our lifetime have never seen that catastrophic disaster of the pending earthquake that many talk about. And just like an ice storm, there are many ways to prepare. What does McCracken County Emergency Management do? How do you offer preparedness for viewers that are asking that?
Sure. I think the ice storm was I sort of looked at that as a trial run, and a lot of agencies did for a major earthquake. Every family needs to have a plan. And the thing about disasters is they can occur with little or no warning. And certainly an earthquake would be that way. There would be no warning, advance warning. Every family, the American Red Cross suggests that you have a plan and discuss that plan. We may not have cell phones, such as we saw during the ice storm. We may not be able to call our family and friends, and we may not be able to get to our family and friends. So it's important to discuss those things now on how to protect your family. Have an emergency kit, flashlight, blankets, food and water. The American Red Cross suggests that you have at least 3 days, and we saw earlier this year with the ice storm, maybe more than that, of food and at least some food and water. Backup generators, if a person can afford a backup generator, generators are important. Keep the power running at least during the winter. Have a little bit of a heat source with that generator providing your electricity.
And even the Red Cross, some of their new information here, which you can also find on redcross.org, says to have 2 weeks supply of food, 3 days of the vitals, like medication and that sort of thing, battery chargers, but even 2 weeks worth of food is enough to prepare you, because like you experienced, I know a little bit about your story, is your whole family depended on you.
Right.
Like not just who lives with you, but your extended family came to you because you were the one that was prepared.
Correct, that's
yes.
correct. And the thing is one thing I think we've all learned from the 2009 disaster is that every household needs to be prepared. And that was something that we discussed at a conference earlier this year, is if one member of your family is prepared for their household, they won't have enough for everyone else in their household. So it's important for every household to have their food, water, and then if you can go join the rest of your family, then that's great. But you got to make sure that everyone's prepared so there's enough food and water to go around.
Okay, Daniel from Union City says, if we did have another ice storm, would there be more tree damage this time since they were weakened last time around? And basically, it's kind of those wait and see. We've never had a natural disaster like last year's ice storm, at least not in our lifetime, and so it's going to take some time to see how those trees, a lot of them actually came back pretty well this year. I was impressed that they didn't suffer so much of the disease and we didn't have a drought, so that certainly helped. But it looks like, at least to me, the trimming of the trees from last year might mean less damage if we were to have another one this year.
Well, I think you're correct. There's a lot of tree limbs that fell during the 2008 ice storm. There's a lot of tree limbs that fell during the Hurricane Ike remnants that moved through here with 70, 80-mile-an-hour winds. And then obviously the final toll on them was the 2009 ice storm. The thing about the power lines, though, is that they probably, if we had another ice storm of that magnitude, we probably would have substantial power outages again, because power lines just are not, unfortunately, made for that sort of weight that 1 or 2 inches of ice can provide. So even though we may not have the amount of tree damage, we would probably still have extended power outages.
Okay, well, we're going to save some more questions coming up in a little bit, but some traditional late summer weather is going to stay with us for the next several days. So John Champion has your hometown forecast coming up next.